Okay, let's talk about your garden. We're gonna move it from that frustrating place, where you get a few good weeks and then nothing, and turn it into a landscape that just keeps on giving, with professional level blooms all season long. You know the one I'm talking about, right? That one garden in the neighborhood that's just a constant fireworks display from May all the way to September. Meanwhile, your plants seem to show up for one short performance and then just clock out for the year. It can really feel like you're missing some kind of secret. Well, here's the good news. It's not magic and it's not a secret. It's a system, a repeatable four-part system that's all built on science. And once you get these four pillars down, you can absolutely get that incredible, non-stop bloom in your own garden. So first things first, before you even think about buying a single plant or one drop of fertilizer, you have to get the foundation right. And I mean everything starts with the soil. Let's start with this idea of a nutritional gatekeeper. Think of your soil's pH like a bouncer at a really exclusive club. It's the one who decides which nutrients get in and which ones get turned away at the door. If your pH is wrong, your plants can't get the food they need to thrive, no matter how much you try to feed them. So here it is. This is the sweet spot. For the vast majority of garden plants, a pH somewhere between 6.0 and 7.0 is like the VIP section. In this range, which is just slightly acidic to neutral, that gatekeeper lets pretty much all the essential nutrients through. This is where your plants can absorb the absolute maximum amount of food. But what happens when you're outside that ideal range? Well, key nutrients, the really important ones, get chemically locked up. You can go out and pour on the most expensive fertilizer in the world, but if your pH is off, it's just useless. Your plant is literally starving in a five-star restaurant. So, to wrap up the foundation, you've got to get a soil test. It's the only way to really know your pH. Then you want to shoot for at least 5% organic matter, like compost. Think of it like a sponge that holds water for your plants. And of course, good drainage is a must to prevent root rot. You get these three things right, and you've built a 5-star foundation. All right, let's build on that with our second pillar. Now that the soil is ready to deliver all those good nutrients, we need to make sure we're giving it the right kind of fuel. This is all about being strategic, about commanding your plants to make flowers, not just more leaves. You see, a lot of those general-purpose fertilizers are really high in nitrogen. That's the first number in the NPK ratio. And look, nitrogen is fantastic at one thing, creating tons of lush green leaves. It is the green machine. But too much of it actually tells the plant to focus on leafy growth at the expense of flowers. Just look at the difference here. A typical growth fertilizer might be a 25-5, just packed with nitrogen. But a bloom fertilizer completely flips that script. It's something like a 10-30-20. It dramatically cuts the nitrogen and then massively boosts the phosphorus and potassium. And this is really the core of the science. That middle number, phosphorus, isn't just another nutrient. The research calls it a metabolic command signal. What does that mean? It means it's the plant's powerhouse. It's the specific element that tells a plant, okay, that's enough leaves, it's time to start making flowers. So how does it do that? Well, it's kind of like a three-pronged attack. First, it creates something called ATP, which is the high-energy fuel the plant needs to build new flowers. Second, it literally activates the DNA and RNA that are required to form brand new floral cells. And third, it actually changes the plant's internal chemistry, creating a high carbon-to-nitrogen ratio that hormonally flips the switch from growth to reproduction. It's a really powerful signal. All right, so we've prepped the soil and we're using the right fuel. Pillar number 3 is all about focusing the plant's energy exactly where we want it. See, pruning isn't just about trimming, it's a strategic way to manipulate the plant into making more flowers. Now, the simplest and maybe most effective technique here is deadheading. A plant's whole biological purpose is to make seeds and reproduce. So once a flower starts to fade, the plant diverts a massive amount of energy into making those seeds. But by just snipping off that spent flower, you're tricking the plant. It basically thinks, oh no, my attempt to reproduce failed, I gotta try again. And what does it do? It produces another flower. Now, when it comes to shrubs, timing is absolutely everything. This is where people get tripped up. If it blooms in the spring, like a lilac, it flowers on old wood. That means it formed its flower buds last year. You must prune it right after it finishes flowering. If you wait until winter, you'll literally cut off all of next year's blooms. On the flip side, if it blooms in summer on new wood, like a panicle hydrangea, you prune it in late winter or very early spring. that encourages the new growth that will carry this season's flowers. Okay, this brings us to our final pillar. We figured out how to make our individual plants bloom like crazy. Now it's time to zoom out and actually design a garden that has non-stop color from the beginning of the season to the very end.
So here's a hard truth about gardening. Most perennials have a surprisingly short bloom time. We're talking just 2 to 4 weeks. The real secret to a continuous show is layering. You use long-blooming perennials as your workhorses, you anchor the whole design with reblooming shrubs, and then, this is key, you fill in any gaps with annuals.
And how do you fill those gaps? With a technique called succession planting. Instead of throwing all your seeds in the ground at once, you stagger them. So for a flower, like a sunflower that might only bloom for a couple of weeks, you sow a new, small batch every 10 days. That way, just as your first batch starts to fade, the second one is just hitting its peak. And that's really the big takeaway here. True, seamless, non-stop color doesn't happen by accident. For a lot of these awesome annuals, it's the result of a disciplined, frequent, and systematic planting schedule. It turns gardening from a single event in the spring into a continuous, rewarding process. So there you have it, the 4-part system. Prepare your soil, power with the right fuel, prune to focus the energy, and plan for continuity. It's such a powerful framework, and it takes all the guesswork out of it. So the only question left is, when you look at your own garden, which one of these pillars is your first big opportunity for a major upgrade?